Welcome everybody to the show. I just want to give a quick shout out to the sponsors and of course Gold's Gym here in Sanson, South Africa, who are hosting the podcast. Big shout out to them. To the guest today, Salvatore Barras. Man, so I've known you for a while. How's everything going with you?
Yeah, Hayden, hello to your viewers. How's it to you? How's it to your viewers? Thanks for the opportunity having me on your show. I think any kind of media coverage is a great thing. And yeah, we're doing okay. We were having a bit of a chat about our history before we walked in here. Obviously, Hayden and I met in a boxing gym. I followed his career from as he started SA Boxing Talk. I think we're busy talking about how you and I have had a similar journey in that we kind of found something what we wanted to do. We stuck with it, and although it was never going to be a get rich, get famous, tomorrow kind of thing. We always kind of stuck to our guns and yeah, pushed on no matter how hard it was. So yeah, I commend you on that. I always notice guys like me that have that are they in that same kind of space where they're not worried about what the outside world's doing. They just kind of got their eyes on what they want and just doing what they need to do every day. Yeah.
So basically, why I brought you on today is because you exactly like that. You're kind of like me, but in a different niche, a different field, and you're doing really well for yourself. Talk to us about, before I even get to your business and what you do, because people watch and see, what's your earliest memories of business?
It's actually funny. I remember when I was a kid, in my garden, I first started learning about the internet, e-commerce, how it was working. I believe Amazon was really coming up at that time. We're talking, early 2000, early 2001. I was really a little pickaninny. Yeah, so I started catching spiders in my garden, and I put them in a glass tank. And I remember putting my first web page together. I did it on Microsoft Word, and that was kind of my first introduction. I always knew that I loved business. My dad was a businessman. My mom was a businesswoman. I was always exposed to people who had that freedom through their own business or through whatever it was they were doing. And from a young age, I knew kind of this is what I was going to do. I was going to find something that I loved and find a way to build a life off it. And that's kind of, I've never really settled for jobs or anything like that. I've had my time doing internships, but it's always been about setting something up where I am my own boss. So I'd say from a kid, and I mean, I've had anyone who knows me knows I have this thing with trains, so I've always got something going on. From as a kid, I was always trying something. I think that's what it's about, just kind of putting in your bets. If to win the lottery, you got to play. So just kind of always putting in those tickets. You know what I mean? So as a kid, this has been a lifelong thing for me.
Well, because it's a boxing channel, I'm going to throw in a couple of boxing things real quickly.
Yes.
Nice and early in the interview. Ashley Theopane, I remember you did some t-shirt designs for him. I mean, that's pretty cool. When I first saw that, I was like, wow, you're doing something like for an international boxer. It's not just local. Like, you aim pretty high with that one. And he ended up using your shirt designs. Talk us through that process.
So over the years, I've always believed that it takes years to master something, learn something. So you always want to try and align yourself with leaders in your industry. There's so much that you can learn, things that would take you years to learn. You could, learn off someone in a couple of meetings, a couple of sit downs. So I've always tried to target what I was doing at, the people that I was inspired by, the leaders. What happened with Ashley was, at that time, I remember I had a little graphic design company before I moved on to what I'm doing now. I had a little design agency, and I would just design t-shirts for anyone that I was inspired by. So Floyd, I was doing t-shirts for. I just send them through to their inbox, and one day I'll never forget. I was actually at gym, and I saw the message from Ashley. And just so your viewers are in context, because I don't know if he's fighting anymore. Ashley was one of Floyd's fighters, and at that time he was obviously one of his best fighters that he had. I think there were only like 5-6 guys at that time. So I designed the shirt for Floyd, for Floyd's guy. It was great to see him hit me back. He actually printed the shirt, used it. So that was it's a big highlight for me in my youth.
And you actually ended up, because I remember you said we met at a boxing gym, right? And it was Boyson's boxing gym, yes. And you were good mates with Ricky Shabalala, which obviously might have put you in the direction to be like, I need to try this out and I need to get exercise. But you ended up having an amateur fight as well, which is an interesting fact. I don't know if many people know that about you that deal business, but you've had an amateur fight. Talk to us about the reason why you did an amateur fight and the whole process. Like, why did you go through all that?
So a lot of people don't know this. I actually left school my second year of high school. I dropped out at JP Boys. I wanted to pursue my thing in business. I had a little thing going on called Sour Cherry. Doing relatively okay. I mean, I was 16 and earning, not far off what I earn these days. So I was doing okay. I decided to leave school and pursue that. And yeah, through that I became friends with old Ricks. We went to high school together, but only after school did we kind of really find each other. We With him I started getting into the boxing, and there was something about it, and I was actually excited about bringing that up today. I think what's different about boxing to all the other sports, boxing is a mental game. I think 90%, 10% happens in the gym, but 90% of what's happening there is in your mind. And I always saw a lot of myself in the sport, in the sense that what I was doing with my creative work, whether I was designing, whether I was selling, whatever I was doing, I always saw that thing that I'm also in this mind game, and that's what anything in life is. It's kind of battling your own demons, and I saw that in boxing, and it really drew me to it. Ricky and I, shout out Ricks, we really bonded over the sport. I was training with Nicky Ness, legend in the game, and yeah, it was that drew me to it, just that mental game, and and that's what life is. Boxing is the perfect sum up of what life is. These guys have these big entourages and these camps, and they're really intense, but when that guy walks into that ring, it's him and his opponent, and essentially it's not him he's fighting against, but it's himself. It's his limitations that he has, and overcoming that. So I think boxing it's a it's a deep thing. It's a spiritual game, and I think that's something that's always drawn me to it. Unfortunately, as I said, I had my first fight. I realized pretty quickly that although I loved the sport, I wasn't built for it. And it's actually funny. My late father was a Springbok wrestler, so I came from and he was a bodybuilder, Springbok wrestler in his youth. So I came from a family, even my grandfather, boxing in the UK, and I came from this background of these sportsmen. But I always find myself happy, in my space with my computer, doing my digital work, and I quickly realized that. But the nice thing was, especially at that time, I found a way to still be involved with boxing. I used to do video work with Nicky Ness when I was young there, so I've always found a way to still kind of stay true to my roots, and stay with the sport. Yeah.
Right, and that led you to the next point, because at that stage, what you're doing now, none of it existed. It was all just maybe a pipe dream at that stage. You said you're very comfortable behind your computer. That's where you feel in your elements. My Brand co-founder, I believe, you and your business partner that made that. Talk to us about how this got established.
Yeah, so My Brand, as I mentioned, I had a little graphic design company that I had at that time. We had a few clients. I had an office in a gym in Bedford View, so they were one of my clients. I was working from there every day. I remember I'd get to work in the morning, we'd train, work the whole day at the gym coffee shop, train at the end of the day, or head over to Boyson's. And I think it was 2016, late 2016, 2017. I got a call that a friend of mine had passed away. I think this was December time around. A call that a friend of mine had passed away. Jacob Koduka. He's one of my best friends. He was known as DJ Crazy Boy. So I had got a call that he had passed away in a car accident. One thing led to another. We were arranging the memorial, and there was no speakers. We didn't have a speaker for the funeral memorial. So we got a call from the guys over at Nikki Beach, the nightclub in Boksburg. So he was a DJ. They had a good relationship with him. So they called us. They said, "Come over, get the speakers. You can use them." Now I've never been big into the jolling thing. I don't do the nightclubs and all of that. So I didn't know how to get to Nikki Beach. It was, I think, my first or second time going there. So I'm trying to find it on Google. Now we're talking 5 years ago. About Google was a bit different at that time. It wasn't as solid as it is now. When you right now you can just kind of go and it'll tell you exactly what you want. So at that time, I was struggling to find Nikki Beach, and I was in the car. I had my graphic design thing. Now I'd always had experience with UX, UI, designing softwares, but more on doing what we call brochure sites in the industry. So nothing really with functionality or any kind of computer logic. I was specializing more in that. I knew I always wanted to build a product. That had always been my dream, but I lacked the capability of doing so. I think building software, there's a lot of different pieces to it. You've got your UX, you've got your logic, so I was only capable of doing the one side. Anyway, this friend, we're on the way to Nikki Beach, and I remember telling myself, I'm going to build an app after all this is kind of toned down. I'm going to build an app, and I'm gonna have all the brick and mortar stores. I'm gonna have every product, every deal, every store, and it's never gonna be hard to find anything again in South Africa. So, also, sorry, what I was inspired by, I've always wanted to move overseas, but I've always been scared of the thought that, where I live, I know exactly where everything is. I know who to phone for what, and I think we take that for granted, where we are in the communities. The way we know everything kind of really gives us an advantage as opposed to someone who's here and doesn't really know anyone. So I've always been nervous of that. I realized, okay, if there was a tool like this in every country that had all the products, all the stores, all the deals, all the locations, that would be a win. And I decided I was going to do this. This is this crazy story. It's hard to believe. When I was on my way there, I remember telling myself, so the first thing I'm going to need is a computer programmer, someone who's decent with their programming. I worked into Nikki Beach. We got these speakers, and I bullshit you not, I bumped into Kiri Iliano, who's now my business partner, and I'd known that he was into the computer software thing, and I bumped into him as I walked in. I said, "But I've got an idea. Let's meet on Monday. We'll change the world together." And I swear to God, we've been working from that Monday. It was around the first week of January in 2016, I think, and we've been working together literally from that Monday every day since. It's obviously evolved a lot since then, but that's kind of how we kind of got going. The main idea was that, at that time you Googled burger, you would see the Wikipedia page for a burger, you'd see Burger King America, you'd see the history of the burger, but at that time I just wanted to type in burger and see a burger where I could get one. So that at that time was what we started on. And we've been at it ever since.
I know obviously there's a lot of like technical analogies that you would have to go into and explain to people how it works, but what is my brand as a whole? Like what does it do for you? Because I know that you built up to the story and what you did to start it, but what does it do for you? So you download the app, and what can you get when you download it?
Okay, so I'll just put you in the picture. Initially, when we started, the idea was, so there was no way, if you went on Eastgate's website or any of the big Sandton City, you opened up any of these shopping malls websites and you hit deals, you could see that was a manual process of someone going and manually uploading those deals, but they weren't getting it right. And I think it was because, if Edgar's was having 200-300 products on sale, to get that onto their website and show their consumers was a difficult thing. So no one was doing it right. There was Price Check, which was okay. With all due respect, I think they've done a great job for for that time, but it still didn't cover that need of if someone before they go to a mall they want to know what's there. So that's what we initially built my brand off. Started in 5 shopping centers 5 years ago in just Bedford View. Slowly grew. We got into business with a big property holding company who eventually became our investors. We eventually grew to it was Johannesburg and then Gauteng, and then so then COVID happened. So at that time we were running regionally in just Gauteng. We had all the shopping centers in Gauteng on. COVID hit, and now we found ourselves in a very difficult position with the product because the whole idea was to drive foot traffic, and obviously when COVID hit, shopping malls didn't want anyone in their malls anymore. So this was a big problem for us. We also had the My Brand app as an app at that time, so it was available on the App Store and Google Play. Now, what a lot of people don't know about apps, it is a very expensive activity. The deving an app versus a website is a completely different thing. Also, in terms of maintaining and publishing an app, there's a lot more that goes into it. So Apple's very strict about their terms and conditions. When you want to publish updates, you've got to wait for that review time. So COVID happened. We find ourselves with this app that's we're going to have to basically completely refurbish in order to do. And also, maybe I'll just throw it in the picture as well. At that time, the investors that we had teamed up with, and also I can't say a bad word about them. I don't think we'd be where we are without them, the Balladakis family. We found ourselves in this position where we had built a company with them. We had our product, My Brand, and we had a media company, I call it a software dev media agency. And myself and my partner, when we initially set out on this journey together, we knew that we could have got decent jobs for the skill sets that we had. We said, we're not going to settle, before 30, we've got time, let's take a shot at something. But, where we were, we found ourselves becoming a media agency, becoming very conventional about things. Everything was becoming what we set out not for it to be. So we made the decision to buy back My Brand from our investors. We sold our shares back to them in the holding company, and we took My Brand and we left. We relaunched as a website in December. So as I mentioned, the website's been a lot easier to scale, to maintain, to build onto. Yeah, and today now my brand today, my brand, two sentences. I'd say, if you've ever heard of Flipboard, I mentioned it to you. Our purpose is, instead of going and opening up 10 different websites now, we aggregate deals from all the leading and most trusted online stores in South Africa and bring them into one place. So instead of opening up Pick and Pay, Nike, Timberland, all these different things, see what they have on deal, we bring that into one browsable feed for you. So yeah, it went from driving traffic to brick and mortar stores to now driving traffic to online stores. And obviously we've gone from operating in just Gauteng to now nationwide. I think we were doing, over the last 5 years, our most back then was 2,000 specials a month. We're featuring about 35,000 now from 200 retailers in South Africa. So yeah, I'd say that's what it's for. My brand helps you find deals in South Africa.
All right, so obviously we're going to throw the website link in the bio as well, so yes, hopefully we can drive some traffic towards the brand.
Mybrand.co.za.
Here we go, and there's a plug-in there as well. The next thing is, you have designed this idea. Do you have any competitors, at least locally? I know internationally you might have competitors, but locally, anything?
I've always tried when I was young. I always wanted to be at this thing of being the next Steve Jobs, or being the next, Price Check, or being the next. And as I got older, I realized that that's not what I wanted out of my life. I wanted to be the next Salvatore. And I look at these guys. We have some competitors who do similar things to us, but with all due respect to them, I do feel like we've taken it to the next level. I think what they've got is good, but we actually had a discussion as I walked in about this, that I think it's time, and not only in my space, in a lot of spaces where new generations are coming up, and I think the older guys are getting scared of having to pass that torch. So I think the competitors, they've got great products, but there's nothing like my brand. I think a lot of these guys have set up what they've set up over, maybe a decade, and it's hard to kind of change what you're doing, And also, I think what separates us from a lot of people, something that investors don't like hearing, our ultimate objective right now with this product is to show people deals. We're not interested in making money, or there is no, right now it is, and the idea behind that is, whoever designed the chair, when the chair was designed, no one designed the chair or the first screwdriver with the intention of, I'm going to make something that can make money. It was never that. It was, I'm going to build something to sit on. The need existed for someone to sit, and the core focus needed to be on building that chair, and building the chair that did the job the best. And as with anything in life, I think even with you, as soon as you start, as with what you do, as soon as you start, money starts being the ultimate objective, then you start losing focus of what it is. Money is just the result of successfully doing whatever it is you're trying to do. And I think a lot of people get that wrong, and yeah, that's what sets our competitors back. I think a lot of these products are very compromised by paid advertising. They need to make money. They need to, whereas my partner and I, we're young, we're versatile, we've self-funded it, so we have space to kind of move around and be more adventurous with things, and we don't need to compromise for money. We've had like offers of people wanting to do things, but like, say, putting a deal on the top, if someone, a certain store wants to promote a deal and have it on the top of the feed, we won't compromise on, it's for us, it's showing the best piece of content to the user. So I think that's what separates us from our competition.
Do you think though it'll get to a point where you're like, okay, now we might have to change our business model? Is it like your current business model? Do you only see it for the now? Do you see it for the future?
No, we're definitely going to have to, and we're obviously already discussing this now. How are we going to monetize it? I think with this tool specifically, I think there's many ways to skin a cat. We're still trying to figure out maybe what's going to be the best route for us. But ultimately, it's just not about. We just don't want to compromise on the experience. So, for example, putting like a Google ad on there that's not looking that great. Like, we're not ready to compromise on that yet. And I think ultimately all these corporates are sitting in boardrooms and they've got teams of 10, 20 people sitting face palming. How do we innovate? And it's any of them can put something together with a few Google ads. Putting something together that catches on with a large amount of people and something that gets used is difficult. And I think, again, investors hate hearing this, but my belief is when you've built something of value that actually solves a problem, money will come. It's not going to be, money will be the last of your issues once you've got that right. And it's where these guys fall short, a lot of them. It's too much about money and not about the solution or the problem that you're trying to solve. I think you must always start something like that. You always start with finding a problem and then building a solution for it. Not, are we going to make money? And it just never works out like that.
Do you have anyone that you particularly follow that inspires you in a way that others don't? Like, do you follow anyone like, As an idol, maybe, like, do you have one of those people?
Yeah, I've got a few. As I said, I like looking up. There's a lot you can learn from these people who have run the courses that similar courses to you. We're actually talking about Jake Paul just when we walked in. I asked how you felt about it. A lot of the boxing guys weren't happy with it. They felt like it was a disrespect to the sport. And for me, that's the problem child. That's why I supported him because I'm a problem child. I support these guys who go against the whatever's conventional. That find their own way of doing things and they don't concede to whatever the norm is. So like guys like Jake Paul, the Nalt boys in America. I don't know if you know them. Some YouTubers, some guys doing some crazy things. Yeah, but I'm very inspired by. Yeah, the Nalt boys just legend. It's just these young guys who just don't need to concede to anyone and they do things their way. And that's like I mentioned to you. That's why I left. I was in a very good position where I was with. I'm not going to mention their name just for legal reasons, but we were in a very good boat with this corporate that we were with, and leaving that, it was a difficult thing, but I wasn't ready to conform. I believe I have a better way of doing things. I don't want to walk around in a blazer all day. That's the thing that we got caught in. You can see how we are. So anyone who's going against the norm is for me. And there's a lot of guys like that at the moment, especially in the US. We're in a new time. It's the young people are taking the torch from these older guys and kind of changing things. It's just a completely new time, with sport, with social media, with and anyone who's kind of doing that is for me a win.
I kind of like that conversation because, like, there are young guys with ideas, and it often takes a long time to get there. But then you got the guys at the top, like what you're saying off camera, like they just sit there, they're content with what they're doing, and they're not looking to like improve their situation. Now that's a big problem because it sort of puts a block on creativity, on building the future. How much of that have you experienced?
Well, I'm actually going through something now. We've just launched a little brand that's doing collectible Lego, so an online toy shop. And our entrance into the community was just as soon as you start doing anything out of the norm, people just don't like it. Like when they feel like they have control, whatever you're in, whether it's software, and I felt it in multiple different spaces. Even when I was doing the boxing thing, I felt it from those big boys when I was doing my videos, and everyone just feels comfortable with their thing, and as soon as they feel like it's a bit threatened or it's just, and you know what, I've actually come to learn these last few days that you're going to experience that in every industry. There's no escaping that. Whether it's you're in an online toy shop, whether you're filming boxing, it's just there's always going to be that element of politics to things. I'm still learning how to deal with it. I'm sure you are as well. I think that's part of like I said, when you kind of have something, you're sticking to it, it's not going to make you famous tomorrow. Those are some of the things that you experience, but you're always going to go at, actually, and I hate to mention this, I heard a quote by Elizabeth Holmes, the ex-CEO of Theranos. It's a company that's no longer in existence now. They had this whole fraudulent thing. I heard a quote by her, and she said, first you upset them, and then you change the world. Something along, I butchered it, somewhere along those lines. But that's how it is, before anyone does anything that's anything of substance, people are going to get upset, and they're not going to like it, But as soon as you start getting that feedback, you're doing the right thing.
So would you say conformity is evil?
I think conformity is dangerous, I had a very interesting conversation with a good friend of mine, and I watched the movie again, Elysium. I don't know if you've seen it with Matt Damon. There's that spaceship in the sky, and Earth's become like this apocalyptic world, and all the rich people basically leave Earth, and they all live on this thing. And the movie starts with Matt Damon as a kid, and he's with a nun, and they're looking up. You can see like Earth's just like an abomination, and he's looking up, and the woman's telling him, one day you'll make it to Elysium, and one day, everything will change when you make it there. And then it fast forwards to Matt Damon in his 40s, and you can see he's like working in a factory. He's got this horrible life. His boss, or the person he takes orders from, is essentially this plastic robot. And I found this deep. There was something very profound about that movie, and that's what conformity is. Conformity is, when Matt Damon was looking up as a child, he was told, you just conform, you do A, B, and C, and that's what's going to get you off Elysium. But, it's not true. You want to make it onto Elysium, and there's this epic scene at the end, spoiler alert, where he lands on Elysium and he crash lands, and it's the way Neil Blomkamp shows, like there's people having a cocktail party and the ship just crashes on the spaceship. That's essentially the only way to make it onto Elysium. Conformity is them, they've given us A, B, this is what you have to do to get off Earth. You do A, B, and C, and that's conformity, and that's nonsense. Like, some of the most successful people I know went against everything that was normal, and I have a lot of friends who, unfortunately, they excelled in academics, they excelled in their jobs, but as soon as they start swallowing that conformity pill, it does become a dead end, and we have essentially been lied to, where there is no getting off Elysium without crash landing and crashing through that cocktail party. And that's why I found this movie so profound, because that's essentially not conforming, not accepting the route to Elysium, making your own, and not accepting what the story is to getting there. And I swear, with every story that's ever been a success I mean, it was always guys that started off like Steve Jobs was laughed at when he went to Stanford with the first, that first thing he got laughed at. So did Bill Gates. So did, Musk. Musk was laughed at. So that's why I think it's a dangerous thing. Some people, obviously, there's a lot of pressure. You got to be like a living pressure cooker. Like, sometimes, I'm sure you know what it's like. Sometimes you wonder, if I just went and took a salary, or went and studied and did like A, B, and C, would this be easier? But yeah, I don't know. It takes a certain type of person, but it definitely pays off. And for me, conformity equals no Elysium, and that's the way I see it. If you want something better for yourself, and you want something, you want something good for yourself and your family, you're gonna have to go out there and take it. And no one's giving it to you, and there is no playbook of A, B, and C. I think conforming is easy, basically.
Yeah, well, you didn't conform, and you got to the point your My Brand company has won several awards, including I saw the MTN App Award in 2016.
Yes.
So you've been going for a long time now, just perfecting your brand and building it. The fact that you got awards and you got put on that pedestal, did that kind of like justify your reasoning?
Yeah, I must say I can't take all credit. My business partner, I wouldn't have been able to do anything that I've done in my life without him. It's inspiring to me. It's also hard to be in that space, to be in that kind of pressure environment, and it's good having that person that you can lean on. So I couldn't have done it without him. Yeah, Hayden, I think with My Brand, I think when we won our award, My Brand, that was definitely the taste of, because up until that point, we didn't really know if we spent a year and we could have just been wasting our own time, and that for us was confirmation that we know what we're doing, we're on the right way, and we have to trust in ourselves. And let me tell you, that is the hardest thing. That's what I meant, and that's why I'm so drawn to boxing, because that's what it's about. Like, it's about trusting yourself. Up until that point of getting the award, and I'll tell you something interesting. Even after winning that MTN thing, I was I'd say, obsessed with getting in there again and doing it again. We actually won the People's Choice Award, but we didn't win the award that I was going for. And for the next 2-3 years, I became obsessed with it, and it was a mistake. It was a big mistake, because I was chasing this need for for validation. I needed this award to validate that I was good enough and that I knew what I was doing. And because I found that validation the first time, and it did so much for me, but shortly afterwards I realized it was confirmation, and I needed to move on. But I think that teaching myself to believe in myself, and that's kind of what that thing brought me. And yeah, it was that thing of that I don't need to conform. I am on the right way. What I'm doing is right, and there's nothing more difficult than that, Hayden, because you can spend, for me it's been 5 years, and you don't get it every day of someone's giving you a thumbs up or someone's giving you a pat on the back. Most of the time it's you alone in a room trying your best, posting things on social media that aren't getting the responses you wanted. Yet you wake up the next day and you do it again, and you only do that out of self-trust. And that's the best boxers in the world, that's what they have. It's that quality. I think the best of anything, whoever's the best at anything in any space, that's the quality that they share, is that they're able to kind of block out and focus on what it is that they're trying to do.
Well, I know, like you mentioned with the posts and stuff, like you post, okay, it doesn't get all the likes you want, and then you wake up the next day and do it again. That's external motivation, like you're trying to motivate yourself to, see results. But internal motivation, is that something that you think that can be learned? So, because I still feel like it's not always the easiest thing to do, to wake up and just be like, yeah, it's going to be great today. Especially if yesterday was a terrible day. Those sort of things, are they learned habits?
Yeah, I'd say so. So me and Rick's actually, for the boxing, I'd say that's where I learned. So I'd used to, every morning I'd wake up, I'd watch one of these, the Will Smith video, the inspirational, I'll never get off that treadmill, all those videos. We laugh about how much of that we used to watch. And, as I got a bit older, I needed less and less of it. But there's this feeling when you watch, it's something that I had to kind of teach myself. Now I don't require, I don't need to take in that kind of content to get that fire. But yeah, I'd say it's something you need to teach yourself, because you can't wake up in the morning. You need to actually get aggressive. You know, I'd say I'm very, you know, when I'm driving to work in the morning, I got that, you know, I got Drake banging, I got like, I'm angry, you know, and that's the energy you need to go into anything. You know, you wake up and you kind of, you wake up and you don't have that fire in you, you're not getting it done. And if you are, you're not getting it done as good as someone like me who's angry and is angry. And I draw my motivation from that. You know, I do something the day before I wake up, it's not that good, or I look back what I looked like a year ago, and that's where I get my fire from. It's actually it's in not having what I want, and not, you know, waking up and a certain post which I thought was great didn't get the response I wanted. I mean, that's what drives me to do it again and do it better. And I think that's the quality that's what you need, because there's a lot of guys, you know, they hit that stumbling block. They've done something for a year and they hit something, and they're not getting rich, they're not getting famous, and they give up, you know. But as soon as you started hitting that point where, you know, it's not work, that's where you need to go even harder, you know. It's once because you need to kind of break through. Shame, I got a friend who, he's into the whole music thing, and he's been doing it for about 3 years, and I see now he's like, no, he slowly is not the same as he was 3 years ago about it, and I wish he could see that, yeah, you know, the 3 years have been hard for you, like no one took it seriously, you know, the stuff wasn't coming out great, you weren't getting the responses you wanted, but 3 years later, he's at his wit's end, and now he can start his journey because he's acquired all these skills, and he's put in those 3 years school fees, you know, whereas most guys can't get through those 3 years of paying those school fees and doing something terribly and looking bad at it. They can't deal with that, you know, but it's only once you've done that, then, okay, now we can start taking it seriously. You know, I mean, even with you, how many videos did you do before you started featuring at bigger events and being able to start interviewing proper boxers? There was probably, you know.
Man, I've done almost, I checked the other day, like 1,300 interviews. I mean, that's a lot of people that have been in front of me and have spoken to me about various topics. Obviously, 99.9% has been about boxing until today. So, I mean, that's sort of been its own journey and that own persistence that, you know, I had to get through. And just talking about what we mentioned earlier, like about the motivation, like sometimes I have to tell myself, I don't know if you know who Les Brown is. Sometimes I have to be like, I have to threaten myself, I'm going to put Les Brown on right now because what's going to happen is, you know, he's going to bring me back. And like, that's what I was saying, like internal motivation, doing like kind of what we're doing is like, it's a big thing, because if I wake up and I'm like, it hits the clock 8, 9, 10 o'clock and I'm not feeling inspired, most likely the rest of my day is going to be really bad, you know. So like, I need to like either get up or I'm going to have to threaten myself.
You know, Rick used to teach me with boxing. Some mornings I used to wake up and say, no, I don't want to train this morning. It's not a good day, bro. And he used to always say, like, there is no such thing as a bad day. Like, there's no bad day. As soon as you start telling yourself that, it starts becoming, you know, okay, then it's like the label. You wake up, okay, today's a bad day. And that's kind of your excuse on your own to yourself on why you're not going to do what you need to do, or why you're not going to, it's like, it's a bad day. There's no such thing, you know. I think your mind's a powerful thing. It really is. It's sad. So my late father, he always used to give me this thing in the gym. He was a complete machine when he used to train. I don't think there were a lot of people that could, you know, do the things that he used to do in the gym. And he always used to say, like, his key to it, that when he was young, you know, he saw guys training, and when they lift those weights, they'll kind of just fling it. You know, the key to it is in resistance. So it's where it's most painful is where you get the most out of it. So when you're lifting that weight, you know, swinging it up and down, you're not getting anything out of it because your body's finding the easiest way to do that movement. Whereas if you slowly focus and bring that and take that pain is where it's found. It's in the resistance, you know. So it's, your mind's a powerful thing. It plays against you. You know, you wake up, it's telling you have a bad day. It's telling you, no, I can't do this because of A, B, and C. That is where you push, and you start doing that more and more and more, and eventually you start getting a bit, like, say, obsessive about it. You can be working on something and it's not where you want it to be, and you can just, I'm doing it, you know, because you know that these bullshit excuses that you present yourself are just bullshit, you know. So I've always found solace in my resistance from myself.
All right. So you never have those challenges where you like, you know what your brain's doing, but you just can't fight it sometimes. Have you ever had those days?
Yeah, you know what? When I feel the mental blocks, that's where I double down.
So
I feel. Yeah. So you know what I like to think about it as. You know, call me crazy. Sometimes I don't mean this like literally, but I feel like if there's a God out there and he's watching us and he's watching everything that we do, it's in those moments when, you know. So I'll bring up a quote from a movie I like. In Deadpool, the first or second one, at the end of the movie, he's standing. He's got the gun over the villain's head and he wants to kill him, and Colossus, the metal guy, comes up to him and he's like, you know, he's trying to explain to him about being a hero, and he says, you know, being a hero isn't waking up and doing hero things and, you it's small decisions. You being a hero it's small decisions along the way, and that's like you say. When I do find myself with those things, I kind of hear God talking to me, if I can put it like that, where that's you're asking life for something. You're asking, I want to be rich. I want to be successful. Those are the responses that you get when you feel that resistance. I see it as, okay, then do this, then break through this, or, and that's what gives me that, like I said, I feel that aggression and I want to do it, not going to obviously have my days. I don't think no one's a superhero, I have my days, I have my mental blocks, but ultimately, like in boxing, when you feel that, it means that you're progressing, and that's the next level, breaking through that point of resistance.
All right, and if you swing over to your LinkedIn page, I know that you follow a couple of like prominent individuals, like people that are successful.
Yes,
so
yes.
Success breeds success, sort of in a way. Who are those people that young entrepreneurs busting through should be following? Because like I know it can be difficult sometimes to find other people to follow to justify what you're doing. So like, who are those sort of people that you'd advise them to follow?
Hayden, I'm not. I told you I've got my people that I look up to, like my guys from America, like my Nalk boys and all these guys, but Jake Paul even in a way. But I'm inspired by it's the guys like me that when I look at them, guys like that I can see in my community or in my space that are like me, that are kind of pushing through and fighting that point of resistance, because I know I'm not crazy. When I see those people, that's what inspires me. Guys like you, and I genuinely mean that. When I see someone doing something for a long amount of time, not giving up, those are the guys that inspire me. Last night I watched Damien's thing on your show here. I mean, legend, complete legend. Guys like that, I don't think we have a lot of them in South Africa. I think, in boxing we have Kevin Lerena. I'm not a huge fan of him. I'm a big Ilunga Makabo fan, but I mean, Kevin, he's also another legend, guys that are young, guys that aren't conforming, guys that are making their own way, so Kevin Lerena, Damien Durant. In my space, it's weird. It's hard for me. I don't find there isn't a lot of guys in my space that that I can look up to in that kind of way. And just because of how hard it is, there's a few guys, I know there's a guy who did like an educational app that came from the same school I did. He did very well for himself. But it's such a hard game, especially with software. For us we only were able to do what we did and get ourselves going because we had 2 investors on board initially. But without that, it's in South Africa, it's so hard to do it. You know what I mean? I think there's a gentleman by the name of Kevin Tucker he was actually the first guy who started Price Check. He's a big inspiration to me. But yeah, like I said, it's people like you, Hayden, people that are in my community that are doing the same thing I'm doing and that aren't giving up, because it's like I'm not giving up while one of you guys are out here. I'd hate to be at a day job one day and you guys still haven't given up at what you're doing and your time comes, My dad always used to say, like, every dog has his day. It's luck. Luck is preparation meets opportunity, So I'd hate to ever give up one day, and one of you guys who we all started out together, you guys have never gave up, and your opportunity met the preparation, So I'd say that's what I'm inspired by.
All right, so now obviously I want your expertise, because also one of the reasons why you're here is because I actually value your time. What would you do if you were in my shoes? So if you were at SA Boxing Talk and this was your business, what would you do?
Hayden, it's so hard to say, because I think it's subjective. Obviously there's a lot I'd like to share with you, show you, just how you can add here and there. But the biggest thing I just think is, it's not. I could say to you, yeah, but I've made this mistake before advising people. I could say to you, yeah, but Boxing Talk's doing this, and if you look at Joe Rogan, they're doing this. Sure, there's some small things of like maybe a camera angle or this and this, but ultimately you're not trying to be the next Joe Rogan, or you're not trying to be the next, and if you try to do that, you're going to fail dismally, because there's only going to ever be one Joe Rogan. There's only going to be one, so if I was in your shoes, I'd keep doing what you're doing, I think, and even to be dead honest with you, I remember a few years ago, thinking like, shit, I must tell Hayden, about just A, B, and C on his videos. It'll help him a lot. And I remember, all these years later, you're still doing it. It's still improving, and it's just, it doesn't depend on that. I think only you know what's there. You know those points of resistance in your mind and what it is that you kind of have to do. I think things like advertising and your kind of standard things. Obviously, I can show you, but the main thing is just to keep doing it. You know what I mean? If you're doing boxing interviews, to keep doing boxing interviews. Same with me. That like my advice, like anyone can tell me anything about my product, but ultimately it's about giving deals to users, and that's what I need to do every day, and focus on that and keep doing it. And no matter what people are saying, or no matter what, if I believe in something, just kind of stick to it, you know. And I think that's what you need to be doing as well. You said 1,300 interviews.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy, you know. Cheers to the next 1,300, you know. That's what it's about, the persistence.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. Do you have any, like, this year, right? So there's not much left in the year. There's about 3 months left. Is there anything that you particularly going to be doing now, between now and the end of the year, that you want to, like, say?
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a press release to the media agencies sometime in the next month or two about this. But we're busy planning now to make our first step out of Africa, which is very exciting. We're going to be launching my brand. I'm not going to be specific where yet. I'll say somewhere in Europe we're going to be launching. It's very exciting for me. It's a lifelong dream to be able to step out of our territory here. For me, that was always also why I got into internet businesses, just that ability to be able to operate in any country. And my brand, because of the way it was designed, it's never been capable of doing that. You know, at one point, you know, we've got, at the moment, our team is 3, but we used to have a team, our team used to be 18 people. Of those 18, 8 of them are working on my brand. We're doing, you know, 100x the times of work with only 3 people now. And it's taken a long time to get the product to this point where it was scalable to go overseas. You know, even if what it would have cost me to do what I'm doing now 2 years ago, 3 years ago, would have been astronomical, just because of the systems that we've designed, the automations that we've put in. So yeah, it's definitely been a lifelong dream of mine, get into another country, and yeah, I don't think it would have been possible in the past. Yeah, so we'll definitely be having more news on that soon.
All right, so we need to watch out for the growth of the company still yet. I mean,
also interesting, I mentioned too, I can't think of any South African consumer brand such as ours, you know, that do what we do, like a consumer software that has been able to step out of Africa. I don't think I can think of any. I know Shopping Feeder, which is part of Price Check, it's one of their parts of their company. They operate overseas, but you know, in terms of consumers and entertainment and experience, I don't think there's a lot of softwares that have been able to do it. So yeah, we're looking forward to putting that in stone.
all right, and I mean, the company's growing. It's always going to grow. You're always going to improve. Always going to learn new things. Is there a parting comment you'd like to leave us with today?
Yeah, check out mybrand.co.za, www.mybrand.co.za. Yeah, check out deals, you know, get in touch with us. You can find us on all social medias. Yeah, that's all, Hayden.
I appreciate it. So thank you for coming on today.
Awesome, it's been a pleasure.